Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Kfir Canard, of which is a currently Tier 7 10.7 BR premium jet for the Israeli Air Tech Tree. This vehicle currently comes in a pack that includes the Kfir Canard, 20 days of premium time, and 2,500 Golden Eagles, all for the current price of $69.99 USD. That said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this premium Kfir variant, including its stats, how it plays, its strengths and weaknesses. I'll give some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation and if I feel that this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing to my channel, but without further ado, let's get into it. As always, I'll place its stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its top speed, rate of climb, and unfortunately low number of missiles. Now for how it plays. In short, this is almost exactly the same as the Kfir C2 that is already in War Thunder, except for some minuscule differences in the stat card likely due to the different Canard setup, as well as a lower bomb carrying capacity compared to the C2. In real life, the Kfir Canard is the Kfir C1. Regardless, it is still incredibly fast, and due to its BR, it is oftentimes put into down tiers, which helps it tremendously. It has an incredible rate of climb, top speed, and excellent maneuverability, all things of which will make you the best performing aircraft in most of your matches. Because of this, it excels in boom and zoom win and down tiers due to the lack of radar guided missiles in such matches, and also in turning engagements, though it can typically only take about a turn or two against an enemy before being bereft of energy, as the Kfir Canard bleeds insane amounts of energy when turning. But, you may ask, Tankenstein, what good is all of this performance without some sort of offensive armament? To answer your question, the Kfir Canard can use up to 2 AIM-9G missiles, as well as 2 20mm Gal 4 gun pods slung underneath the aircraft. Though I suspect that most people will opt for just the missiles, as the Kfir Canard still has the standard 30mm cannons that can of course get the job done when fighting aircraft. The 20mm gun pods are extremely powerful and can sling enough lead down upon your enemies that it could end up being worth the performance reduction, at least in some instances. Unfortunately, these are the only secondary weapons that one can equip to use against air targets, as it lacks more than 2 AIM-9Gs, of which are simply, in my opinion, meh at this BR, as well as any radar guided missiles. In fact, the Kfir Canard only has access to a range finding radar, which can definitely hamstring you, especially in sim battles. Regardless, so long as you play to the strengths of this aircraft, namely in its excellent performance and avoid turning for too long, you should emerge victorious in most battles while using this plane. With that said, for close air support, this plane is fairly typical. It can carry a good amount of ordnance, sitting at around 4,000 kilograms payload at max, with the ability to use both bombs and rockets. You can choose a range of bombs with weights between 500 pounds and 2,000 pounds, as well as Mighty Mouse rockets and Zuni rockets, as well as the aforementioned gun pods. Combine this fairly sizable payload with ballistic computers for both bombs and rockets, and you have a fairly standard Western CAS plane, though with what I would consider to be a slightly above average payload capacity. Just zoom in, attack, and then zoom out, and you should be able to find success in ground RB with this plane. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. It has an extremely powerful engine that gives the Kfir among the best performance of similar BR planes. It can outrun almost any plane at its BR with ease. Second, it has very good maneuverability while it still has speed left to burn. For its third strength, it can carry a wide variety of ordnance, including upwards of 4,000 kilograms of anti-ground ordnance, as well as 2 20mm Gal 4 gun pods under the wings. For its fourth strength, it has ballistic computers for both bombs and rockets. Fifth, it has an enormous amount of vertical authority, meaning that it can pitch up and down incredibly quickly, similar to how a J-35 can do it. And finally, it has premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses, though it technically has a radar, it's only for range finding and oftentimes slaves your AIM-9Gs to your allies when trying to target an enemy. For its second weakness, it lacks any sort of mid-range missile options. Third, due to its delta wing design, it bleeds speed incredibly quickly while turning. For its fourth weakness, not only does it have somewhat subpar AIM-9Gs as its best missiles, but it can only carry 2 of them. Fifth, it only has 36 countermeasures, which while better than of course a J-35D which has no countermeasures, it still is not very good. Beyond this, the 2 30mm DEF-A 5.52A cannons aren't great versus enemy planes and are just barely sufficient versus poorly armored ground vehicles. For its seventh weakness, while it isn't necessary, the Kfir Canard lacks guided anti-ground ordnance. Eighth, Once you reach close to Mach 1, the afterburner starts chugging fuel. And finally, it has a subpar to average roll rate, depending of course on your speed. Now with that said, for how I rate this plane. For dogfighting in the Air RB, I give it a 6 out of 10. This score, like with what we see with the other Rank 7 premium planes, is largely based on the fact that it has superb matchmaking, at least currently. While not the absolute best plane currently, the Kfir Canard is arguably the best overall performer out of all similar BR premium aircraft, despite having merely average air-to-air ordnance. Because of this, you can still get into positions that exploit enemy weaknesses much more often than other planes, which means that you can essentially appear behind enemies faster than almost anyone else, which is a tremendous advantage in combat. Regardless, it still has what I would consider to be subpar missiles in the AIM-9Gs, and it only has 2 of them. It also has decent, though not great, 30mm cannons, along with the option to mount the very powerful GAU 4 cannons, though at the cost of a large chunk of your performance. Because of this, and because it lacks any mid-range options and also bleeds speeds incredibly quickly in a turn, I feel that this plane is simply very good or even barely great, but that's really all. In an up tier, or if the matchmaking for this plane were to change unfavorably for it, I could see this score dropping to a 5.0 out of 10 at very best, though it would likely be even a bit worse than that. Now for close air support, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. While it doesn't have anything fancy like guided ordnance, the Kfir Canard still has access to a very large payload of around 4,000 kilograms, with plenty of good rockets and bombs, all brought to target via effective ballistics computers. While it is by no means flashy, the Kfir Canard has a very good total payload and the means by which to deliver it both quickly and accurately, more so than most other planes. Because of this, I feel that it is a very good CAS plane, though again, is possibly not specialized enough in this role to satisfy people who really prioritize CAS, again being that it has no options for you to be able to stand off with your CAS, nor does it have any sort of options for automatically guided weapons as well. Now that said, overall, I give it a 6.25 out of 10. This plane is very good in many regards and can wreak havoc against the enemy, largely due to its immense performance, but it lacks any significant anti-air payload, as well as a substantial amount of countermeasures. While performance is oftentimes enough to get you into a position to earn a kill, especially in a down tier, it will simply not be enough in most up tiers, as more advanced fighters will not only have substantially better weapons than you, but will also have comparable or even better performance as well. Aside from this, it is still a very competent CAS plane and has favorable matchmaking in Air RB, at least for the time being. For these reasons, I still score it favorably, though it feels like this score could drop with any significant meta changes and is somewhat on the razor's edge. After all of that though, do I recommend this plane? I'll put it like this. Of all of the Rank 7 premium aircraft at 10.7 BR and below, at least among those that started at 10.7 BR, the Kfir Canard is likely the least capable of the bunch, at least relative to BR and in Air RB, which is what most people consider. This isn't to say that the Kfir Canard is not capable, but the J35XS, the F104S TAF, of which started at 10.7 BR, and A6E all felt better to me at their BRs in which I tested them than when compared to the Kfir Canard. They all had more missiles and better missiles, as well as very good performance, with the exception of course, the A6E. In short, while I like the Kfir Canard, I cannot really recommend it unless you truly feel like you need a fighter to grind out the Israeli air tech tree. The premium A4E is likely a better grinder than the Kfir Canard, and is also less expensive, while also being capable in CAS. So no, I really can't recommend this plane, though I don't really dislike it. Put concisely, it's simply good or even very good in a sea of great planes. And this might flip on its head if it starts encountering higher BR planes more often than it does currently. That is the biggest fear that I have with this plane. It is pretty good in down tiers because it faces a lot of down tiers, but if we see a substantial meta change where the Kfir Canard starts getting into up tiers more often, then good luck. Now that said, thank you all so much for watching. Please of course consider liking, commenting, subscribing. I of course always want to know your opinions in the comments below, both on this video and on the plane. Either way, thanks again everyone, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.